the analogy I made last week about emotions is that at a foundational level, you can think of it just as there's these shades. It's either on the spectrum, you have white and you have black, right? And then you have gray in between. And if I were to translate that, I would say that there are these states. So it's not even emotion yet. There's just these states that we can find ourselves in. And the spectrum, instead of white and black, I'm just going to say is pleasant, unpleasant. And maybe some shade in between would be neutral, right? It's not one or the other. And then you have maybe, just like you have primary colors, you might have just these really generic emotions, right? Like you have fear, or you have joy, or anger, right? So those are like your primary colors. And you can mix those up, and then you'll get finer grades of colors, which are all the different emotions that we can feel. And today, I kind of want to focus on stress, because oftentimes when people are asked, how are you feeling? They'll say, I'm stressed. And without getting into semantics here, I feel that stress doesn't belong to an emotion. I feel like it's more of a state. And it's a state of the amount of energy that is coursing through the nervous system. And it's the result of a balance between two things, which is demand versus resources available to attend to those demands. So that when you have a lot of resources available, even if you have a lot of demands, the stress is not there, because I have the resources to attend to those demands. But when the demands become higher than the resources, there is a level of stress that occurs, because I just don't have resources to attend to all of these demands that are coming at me. So I go into overdrive. And the way that that is sensed in the body is a surge of energy that feels very uncomfortable. So I have energy, and now I have unpleasant, and then not wanting. And that combined might give an overall state or feeling of anxiety, right? So anxiety, we're going more into a feeling. It's not just a state, right? Anxiety, there's a combination of different things that are happening there. And this is the analogy I'm trying to make with colors. Am I making sense? Okay. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and I want to just focus on, forget about stress. Let's just talk about the nervous system and awareness. The way our nervous system operates is that when it is resourced, when it feels like that it can attend to the amount or the influx of information that's coming at it, it's not stressed, because it can attend to that. And as a result of that, there is an availability of conscious awareness. I'm not in an emergency state yet. But if I start increasing the amount of stimulus, if I start increasing the amount of information that's getting bombarded, the nervous system can no longer tackle all of those. The nervous system is feeling under-resourced. The nervous system starts to feel unsafe or potentially in danger. And what happens is we're going to shut down conscious awareness, and now the default mode comes into being. The default mode is our wiring, our evolutionary wiring to cope with emergencies, meaning we don't need consciousness. Consciousness is going to get in the way. We need an emergency action response. It needs to be immediate. Does that kind of make sense? So we lose our conscious awareness, and the conscious awareness will come back when things have settled down. Unfortunately, oftentimes after we've already taken action from that conditioned place, that's when the awareness comes back, the conscious awareness. And then we're like, oh, I just did that, which was safe for the immediate situation, but not for the long term. So a classic example of this is acting out in extreme anger or fear, right? We lose for a moment our awareness. The body kicks in with a reaction. Maybe it's to push something away in whatever strategy is available, and it takes care of that. So the immediate is taken care of, but now I have to deal with the long term of repairing a relationship, for example. And so if we're going to start talking about how to be with difficult emotions, the primary thing that we need is awareness. Because if the awareness is not there, which it oftentimes is not as we start going through difficult, extreme emotions, how can we choose wisely what our action is? I'm going to share again this picture that I've shared in the past. So I'm sorry for the redundancy, but I like the picture because it shows in a very simple graphical way the relationship here between our nervous system, which is the level of arousal that you find here at the bottom, and this bell curve over here, which represents the state of the nervous system. So that when there's little input or there is little sensory information coming, there's not a whole lot of conscious awareness, right? Just think about when you're tired. When there's too much input that's coming through, the nervous system is just overburdened. And so again, there's not a whole lot of awareness. So at either extremes of the situation, either there's not enough input or there's too much input to the nervous system, we are not present. Where we become present is when there is a reasonable amount of energy, and yet there is a level of relaxation. So I'm alert and I'm relaxed. This is the space where I can have conscious awareness. On either extremes over here, what kicks in is our habit or our conditioning or our evolutionary programming. Mindfulness is about staying in this optimal state here where I can have awareness that's intentional and that I can have choice about the action that will come forward. Going back to the question, how do we deal with difficult emotions? We protect the nervous system. This is a preventive mechanism versus on the spot when it happens. It's kind of like dealing with health. We take measures to protect our health so that we don't get sick versus paying attention to health only when we get sick. It's a little too late, right? It's a little too far down the road. I mean, it's still a place to start, but we really want to start at the preventive. So with mindfulness, while you have your conscious awareness, what we can do is we can protect our nervous system so it doesn't get into a state of hyper arousal where I'm going to lose my awareness. And I protect the nervous system by making sure that the lifestyle that I lead is not giving too much for my nervous system to process. That means that I move slowly so that my nervous system has time to digest what's coming at it. That means I have space in between one activity to the next so the nervous system can take it in and can integrate the information before having to handle more things coming at it. Of course, this might not be necessarily easy to do or practical in the lifestyle we find ourselves in right now, but this can be an orientation to move towards, because it takes awareness to make wise actions to be able to promote more awareness. So you see, we're kind of in this catch-22. So another way of looking at this is there's two states. If I were to be really extreme with the white and the black, there's two states we can be in. We can be in mindful, conscious awareness, or we can be in conditioning, habitual, unconscious action. And of course, there's in between, because we're not either one or the other. We fall somewhere in between. Oftentimes, if we are in a place where we are stable and grounded, even if there are very stressful things that come at us, I am able, when I'm feeling that surge of energy, which usually is stress, there's a surge of energy that there's too much going on and I don't know how to handle this, I can detect that's happening while it's happening because there's enough awareness. And in that detection, I can come up with an action to stop it. Versus if I'm in the conditioned place, that surge of energy will start to come. I don't have enough awareness. It's uncomfortable. And the habit way of stopping it might not be conducive for awareness coming back. And so we call this self-regulation. When we notice ourselves that we're going a little onto the stress level, before we get to the peak of stress, we do behavioral changes that are able to keep us down at a manageable level. So the key to this is to catch it before it gets there. And we do this by lifestyle. And we can also do it in the spot. The more attuned you can start to become to different flavors, you can recognize the pre-symptoms before the onset of the actual event. Right? So my pre-symptoms is there is a full body tension of the body's contracted, and there is this kind of fluttering, or it feels like electricity that's right underneath the skin and that's moving upwards. And so I would describe it as a posture of like launching. Like I know, because my stress conditioning is that the moment I feel stressed, I go into fight mode, meaning I'm going to tackle the problem, I'm going to solve it. And so I'm in that posture, and I can tell that by the muscles in my neck, the shoulders rising up, and I know I'm going into that state. And there's also like a flavor. There is a mental quality. I can't explain it. It's not an emotion. It's a state that is very distinct for me, and I know I'm going in there. And so this is where it becomes really challenging. And Yufei, this is where I wanted to tie it back into, the doing, because we have different stress responses. Some people shut down. They become overwhelmed. They go into freeze mode. They shut down. They just avoid and they wait, until something passes or something distracts and passes them along. Other people are very confrontational and will go straight at it. And my disposition is to go straight at the problem and try to fix it as fast as possible, because I don't want to feel what I'm feeling. And it is a tricky thing, because there's this false sense that I'm actually chipping away at the problem. But it's chipping away at a problem that I'm not getting the full picture of what's actually happening, because my view is fixated and narrow because I am tense and closed up, the attention is very, very focused on that one thing, I'm not seeing all of the other components that make up the problem. And I launch straight into doing, and the action might tackle that part of the problem, but it's ineffective without considering all of the components that make up that problem. Another way or expression to say this is rearranging the deck chairs of the Titanic. I'm making it look good and smoothing it out on the surface, but I'm not looking at the foundational issue that's below. And the danger of this particular flavor of conditioning is that I'll keep becoming distracted by fixing small aspects of the problem. I will never see the real issue below. And so I'm in this continuous perpetual state of fixing and thinking I'm getting somewhere and exhausting myself from it. And it's an addiction that I can't break out of. Whereas for my conditioning, for the way I'm configured, one of the things that I'm learning, and this is very difficult for me, is to actually not act. And this is very difficult because it's unpleasant and it's a habit. I usually act before even knowing that I acted. If I were to sit with the discomfort and wait, ultimately, my organism would pick up more information. And giving it enough time to pick up the information I was missing before, meaning the broader picture, it's going to be able to integrate that and come up with a solution that is much more effective because I have a broader view of what's happening. So I'll give a concrete example of this. I just moved into this house. The carpet is disgusting. I can't stand it. I went immediately into renting a vacuum shampoo to shampoo the carpet. I spent like $100 or more doing it. I spent the entire weekend. Whereas if I had just endured it and looked at it and really noticed the carpet, realized, hey, you actually have to remove this whole thing. So that was just a waste of time. It just set me back. It set me back emotionally. It set me back energetically. It set me back financially. It was a waste of time. Right? This is a silly example, but it's just, but there was a sense of satisfaction. It's like, I tackled that. I did that. You know, I can feel good about that, but the problem is still there. And so when we are in a stress state, we tend to go, if your disposition is that of action, we tend to go into action, and it's ineffective action, but there's this seduction or this feeling of temporary well-being that you actually think that you're progressing or you're dealing with what the problem is. And it's never ending. And it just perpetuates more stress. Because instead of resting, instead of digesting, instead of allowing the nervous system to settle, because it will, if we can just wait, the nervous system will settle. Take meditation as an example. Compare the beginning of meditation with the end. In the beginning, the mind is just spewing things, right? We're just like totally just discharging. At some point, without us even trying, without even doing anything, we will settle and we'll be in do-do-do. You know, and it's like, oh, what's that? Oh. So the organism is able to do this without our direction. We just need to get out of the way, and we need to stop compulsively acting on our conditioning, which again is impossible to do without awareness. So you can see the setup is very interesting that we're dealing with. The last thing that we think we should do is what we should do oftentimes. So the last thing when I'm stressed that I want to do, which is to do nothing and just let it be the way it is actually the way through. we operate, our organism operates on a different time frame than our mind thinks it should. Our mind thinks that things need to get resolved immediately. The organism is taking time to really assess what's going on, if we let it, so that it can come up with the most appropriate response if we haven't already reacted. So as difficult as this suggestion might sound, the way we deal with stress, aside from don't let ourselves get stressed in the first place, the preventive work, or as we're starting to get stressed, try to broaden the view by including the somatic experience, right? Not just the story, because the story will take us, the story will just accelerate the process, right? The story will just have us identify with what's happening, and there's no longer the witness. Now we are the experiencer. So see if you can balance yourself by dropping into the somatic. And then with that little bit of space that you have, hold on to that and don't move. Don't act. Just stay. Complete opposite of what we do. What we do is act. If you can stay there long enough, the energy that is rising and pushing you into action will actually leave your body. It's just energy passing through. It's a contraction. You can't stop the contraction. Or you can try to suppress the contraction, and then it's going to come up again. And then it's going to come up again. It's kind of like trying to hold yourself from going to the bathroom. And it just keeps coming up more, until it's just too much. So just let it happen. And there's something really important about the discovery of this. That if we're allowed to withstand this bubbling of energy and allow it to happen, where in our minds we think we're going to die and that we need to stop this, which is the other problem we have, is we cut the process off. So it doesn't reach completion and it keeps happening and we keep suppressing it. And so we're in this perpetual state of trying to reach completion or discharge. Let it discharge and watch. And this is the fundamental shift that can happen, is the discovery that it's just energy moving through. It's not the end of the world. We're not going to die from it. It's just energy that's really uncomfortable and that we don't like. Enough of these cycles will start to build equanimity. And what that means is that you see the phenomena arising, but you don't fall for it. You're just like, oh, that's just energy moving through. And this is going to suck, but I'm just going to stay back. I'm just going to hang back and be with it. And it will pass, and then something else will emerge. And Yufei, this is my insight that I wanted to share with you. Because I just bought a house, and there's this compulsive, like, acting of fixing everything in the house. It's nonstop. I wake up, it's the first thought I have in my meditation. I'm just strategizing the entire time of like, what are all the things I need to do? And I go straight into action 24/7. And at some point I hit threshold and I have like a nervous breakdown. And the nervous breakdown actually was a relief. It was incredibly uncomfortable keeping it under control before it got to that point. But when I finally broke down and started crying and feeling all of the feelings that have been bottling up, the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of helplessness, the feeling of being stupid because I don't know how to do any of these things, the feeling of like, I don't know how I'm going to navigate this, right? There's just like this hopelessness, all of that. And all of that came out and all of that was processed. Then it was just like, and just sitting there and just sitting there and just staring at the trees and just whatever for a moment. There was a break of that psychosis that I was in conditioning. And all of a sudden, insight arose. Oh, here's what you can do. I didn't strategize or think my way to that solution. It came when I got out of the way. And here's the kicker, is that you can listen to me saying this, but this will have no validity until you experienced it yourself. Because we have to see, we have to experience this phenomena, and then the reward of waiting, the incredible amount of clarity and wisdom that can become available if we just get out of the way, let the organism do what it knows to do, and just wait. Here's the kicker. The doing perpetuates the state of stress because it's never done. And it's a complete contradiction to what we think, because we think that if we start doing, there's going to be less stress because it's getting taken care of. But more doing is more things coming at our nervous system, not less. And the nervous system gets into an even higher state of dysregulation. And from there, we're just going to make really bad decisions. And I know I'm making bad decisions when at the end of a full workday, I just want to watch a movie and veg out. Now, do I know that I have the option to just go sit outside, light a candle, and enjoy quiet music? It's like, no, I want to watch a video. Why? There's this compulsion, or I want to go on Facebook, or I want to whatever, just like randomly push the different apps on my phone. There's just this, can't explain it. It's like a craving. It's a craving for relaxation with no effort whatsoever. And for whatever reason, sitting outside with just a candle lit and enjoying the outside feels like still work. I don't know why. That's contradictory, but that's the perception. So instead of doing a self-care choice that will actually really be soothing, and I know this, it's not that I'm unconscious or unaware. I'm actually choosing to do something like eat a bunch of chocolate or whatever that I know is going to put me into still a dysregulated place, but I don't care. I don't care because I want that immediate, even if I know the impact in the long term. And this is conditioning operating. I cannot fight my animal nature. And then what comes is the shaming and the blaming and the judgment and the guilt and just layering more, right? So this is what I'm saying is that when we're in that altered state of conditioning and we're in this kind of grabby mode, right? Like grabby of like fix it, or grabby like I need pleasure, I need whatever, I'm just exacerbating the problem. Because then the question is, when I'm in this heightened state, then what, right? If I don't have control and compulsion is just taking over and I'm just on the sidelines, what do? You just watch. You just witness. You don't have to do anything. You witness the pain that arises as the consequence of unskillful choices. You don't need to shame and judge and add on to that. You can watch that happen too. And then you'll know, it's like, oh, well that, all we have to do is just witness. That is the way through. Because the organism will learn. We don't have to change our behavior. I don't have to stop trying to eat chocolate. I don't have to refrain. I mean, that'd be great if I can, but I'm not dealing, again, that's like rearranging the deck chairs of the Titanic, right? It's like, okay, I refrained in that moment, but now I'm going to go and like do some other crazy thing, right? I'm exaggerating here. But the actual witnessing and meeting the energy in that moment to the best of my abilities is what is going to give me evidence of the way through. It's not forcing myself to be in a particular way. It's not beating myself up afterwards. I'm innocent. I cannot control these millions of years of evolutionary disposition that I don't even need to understand it. I just need to see it. It's enough. And if we see it enough times, the system too will integrate that and will understand that there are alternative ways. And I love your share where you tried something different. You were actually able to refrain from the compulsion. And when we refrain from the compulsion and we watch a completely different outcome become possible, the amount of learning that comes from that, of like, oh, wow, that's a possibility. This is what starts reorienting our behavior. It's not repression. It's actually clear seeing. And seeing that result will slowly start orienting ourselves to wanting something else. And the behavior that starts to stem in the future will have that as a reference point. And so the compulsion starts to act out, but there is that understanding of a different reference point, which allows for some clarity and awareness, just a little bit to be available where there might be choice. It's like, oh, that happened last time. What if I try that again? So our only job, to the best of our abilities, is to watch. That's mindfulness. It's witnessing without adding the story and the layers that we come up with. All the other stuff is just garbage, right? It's just add-on. It's not what's actually happening. Okay, just to finish the story of when I was having my breakdown, is in the middle of like the anger and the crying and the desperation and all of that came the insight. I'm like, oh my God, this is my opportunity to study conditioning and to be able to learn of a potential different outcome. Like, this is it. Like, the thing that I cannot stand right now is actually the thing that is going to help me break the pattern. So enjoy your stress and let it be a place to really learn about your conditioning, because oftentimes we don't have the awareness of the conditioning. So start to study and learn and discover about yourself compassionately, kindly.